Welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, man. Okay. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube over at I Feel Fat Today podcast. Subscribing to the show gets us out there for more people to listen to us. If you are enjoying the episode that you are watching right now, please give that a like and comment, because the more you do that, the more we get pushed out to the almighty algorithm for which we do everything for. Pray to Lord Algo. Okay. And once you've done that, head over to Apple Podcasts. You can follow us there. And you can also leave a 5-star review. Leaving 5-star reviews gets us out there and lets the public know that this is a good show that people need to be listening to. So if you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star review over there on Apple Podcasts. If you would like to send an email over to us where we can give you some advice on the podcast, please send an email to ifeelfattoday@gmail.com. I can read it out on the podcast and give you some advice. We've had some of that happen in the past, and it's been a lot of fun to read out on the pod. You can also follow us on social media at I Feel Fat Today, where I update you on when new episodes have dropped, give you updates on the podcast in general, post clips of the pod. You can do that over at I Feel Fat Today on Instagram. And you can follow me, your host, Kelly Taylor, over at Hello, This is Kelly over on Instagram. Doing that helps me get booked places. And the more I'm booked, the more stand-up I can do, and the better I get at this. So thank you very much for your support. I think that's all the housekeeping. Let's see. What do we have for today's episode? This week's episode is very exciting because it falls the day after my 32nd birthday. I am recording this on the eve of my birthday. And I love it. I love birthdays. I'm not even doing anything really for my birthday this year because I don't know. I didn't really feel like, putting together a party full length and having people get together at a bar late at night for me. But I'm still just as excited about it. Birthdays are freaking awesome. I love birthdays. And I love being a Libra. I love everything about October. I love that my birthday is October 10th because 10/10 is just really nice. And I think astrologically, there's something called a 10/10 portal that I should be aware of. And I think that maybe it holds some significance for me because that is the day of my birth, the day I came through the birth canal and greeted the world at 5:45 in the morning as a Libra sun, Aries moon, Libra rising. I'm a full-fledged Libra, born on a full moon, born on an Aries full moon at that. So I'm excited about my birthday and getting together with some friends, but not doing anything too extreme, having some wine, having some gossip. That's all I really want. All I want for my birthday is hot, juicy gossip, like a true Libra. Okay. So I am, of course, excited about this week's guests. We have an amazing interview coming up for you. But before that, I have an article, a very quick one that I want to read because, and I don't really know how I came upon it, but do you ever feel like you just want to completely abandon your life and join the circus, just go completely off the grid? Just the pressures of capitalism have gotten to be too much, and I want to leave New York City and just hit the road, joining a circus act. I sometimes feel like that, especially lately, with just the way things have been going. I'm in a good mood today, but wow, it gets dark. And so I came across this post from a mommy blog, believe it or not. It's called Scary Mommy. And the writer of this wrote an article titled, "The Best Thing I Ever Did Was Join the Circus." And this is written by a person named Molly. And I'm going to read it to you because I think that there are some interesting takeaways that are relevant to this podcast and I think life in general. Okay, so the story goes, I've had my fair share of attempted and abandoned hobbies. Some filled a temporary gap, a craving I didn't know I had, while others fell flat, miserable failures from the start. Each one taught me the importance of balancing the demands of motherhood with my need for personal fulfillment. But one stands out above the rest. One has stood the test of time. And that hobby is the circus. The turning point came when my kids took a free outdoor performance organized by our local circus school. It was a casual event with a mix of amateur and semi-professional performers. A small stage was set in the park, framed by colorful banners and hula hoops scattered on the grass. Families gathered on blankets and lawn chairs as performers wandered through the crowd, handing out spongy red clown noses. The show left us in awe. People of all sizes, ages, and backgrounds showcased unbelievable strength and balance, from defying gravity on trapezes to performing elegant routines on silks. I thought these types of stunts were strictly for professionals like Cirque du Soleil performers and Pink. Could normal, everyday people do this? Imagine my shock when I learned I could just stroll into a circus school, which actually exists, and there's likely one near you, and sign up for classes. I kept thinking about it. Could finding balance in the air translate to finding balance in my life as a mom of 3? So I took the plunge and signed up for an introductory aerial arts class where I was introduced to different setups like the steel lycra, silks, and trapeze, along with fundamentals of the practice. Aerial arts was the most random, wild hobby I ever pursued. And I still can't believe I do it, really. My early attempts were anything but graceful. I barely made it halfway up the fabric, constantly confused my left from my right, and ended each evening after class with a long bath to recover. But I was hooked. I wasn't instantly good, though. When I returned from my second session the following season, we had graduated to more complex sequences, and we were going to learn our first drop. I sauntered in with overconfidence, only to be swiftly humbled. With my hands caked in rosin, I grasped the fabric and began to ascend, wrapping it around my ankles to create a nook to step into and invert in the air. I failed. I failed over and over, struggling to lift my hips high enough and nail the angle necessary for rotation. That first year, I was the only one in my class who couldn't conquer it. I'll never be the best. I'm not flexible enough to look impressive or make my sequences flow smoothly. And I keep mixing up my left and my right while trying to navigate complex movements. But it turns out I don't mind. I'm having fun. Despite my incompetence, I still love it. That's what circus school has done for me. Broken through my discomfort with failure and pain, distracting me from my beast of body dysmorphia long enough to use my limbs and muscles as tools, not as sources of disgust and obsession. I've been at war with my body for decades, not due to illness or injury, but consumed by a relentless need to fix it. I've immersed myself in body positivity, body neutrality, and the deconstruction of diet culture. I've sought guidance from registered dietitians and read widely the works of fat activists, but nothing has silenced the incessant critical voices in my head. Parenting has helped, to some degree. It has reshaped my relationship with my body in ways I never anticipated, helping me find a new sense of purpose and strength. As mom, my body serves those I love. My belly soft and welcoming for a toddler seeking deep cuddles. legs gently toned from playing chase and countless walks to the library. But my time in the circus has helped me too. I may not glide through the air with grace or fluidity. Instead, I approach aerial arts with a determined, sometimes robotic persistence, muttering curses at the silks. But I found a supportive community that encourages me to persevere, not in competition and without judgment or comment. It took repeated failures and countless bruises to finally understand that this wasn't about immediate success. It was about embracing the process. Circus has given me something I didn't expect. A new appreciation for my body. A body that for years I felt at odds with. In aerial arts, it wasn't about being thin or flawless, but about strength, resilience, and the joy of movement. For my birthday earlier this year, I asked for one thing: a long piece of aerial silk fabric. It was a way for me to continue conditioning, perfecting my technique, and staying connected to the sensation of it enveloping me. Smooth against my sweat-soaked skin, providing both a soft touch and firm support. My children were so excited to present it to me. They've embraced my newfound passion. "Mom, are you going to clown school tonight?" my son teases. I laughed and scooped him into my hug. "Yep, buddy. Want to see the video of the cool things I did when I get home?" If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's to never stop trying new things. Find something that moves your brain or body in a way that feels like play, not another item on the never-ending checklist. You don't have to achieve anything to feel fulfilled. Sometimes you just need to hang in the air and see where it takes you. So that was a blog entry from Scary Mommy. And I really loved that piece for a few reasons. I think my key takeaway, just in the vein of this podcast, is the sort of section on body neutrality, body positivity, and how, you know, you can sit and read and try to consume as much to get out of your head. You can consult with dietitians. You can do everything you think you can do to deconstruct these negative feelings about yourself. And for this writer, she found the way through all of that through action, through joining the circus. And did she actually, join the circus? Did she actually pick up and leave her life? No. She goes to circus school at night, is still a mom of 3, is still doing, whatever outside of that. But I think that the lesson here is to not stop yourself because you feel like you can't you can't be involved in something because of the way you look, the way you think, the limitations you've put on yourself that are completely made up. And I really liked just this short, sweet piece that kind of encapsulated all of that. And so I hope you enjoyed it as well. And then, we're going to move on. We're going to bring on this week's guest. Now, the thing about this week's guest is he is a very good friend of mine. He was one of the first friends that I made in stand-up. And it was such a pleasure to talk with him. You can find the brand new special from Ben Kirschenbaum over on Mark Norman's YouTube page. Please check out Ben's new special. And after you do that, listen to him on this week's episode of I Feel Fat Today. Please welcome the amazing, hysterical Ben Kirschenbaum. Made the trek all the way from the Upper East Side.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not too bad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you were living where you grew up, essentially. Same part of town.
Yes. So I grew up 10 blocks away or like 15 blocks away from where I currently live. Yeah.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Manhattan?
It is always one of those tough questions because it's all I know, right?
Yeah.
What I will say is like your world, I feel like it's true anywhere, is very small when you're growing up.
Yes.
So I grew up on 93rd Street. I rarely would go below 70th.
Yeah.
So it's not later on, obviously, like in high school, you start going to cooler areas and stuff like that. But growing up, like lower school, middle school, it was much more, I was not taking advantage of the fact that I was in New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's so cool. Because I feel like sometimes you meet someone that like grew up in Manhattan and you're almost like, I can tell, but for you, I don't get that. I just get like, you're like just a nice East Coaster.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Midwesterner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to ride a bike. Like there are tells. Every
I have
once in
a
while.
friend that grew up in Brooklyn that doesn't know how to drive a car or ride a bike.
I do know how to drive a car, but that was only because my school was in the Bronx. So, eventually people got to drive to school.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that.
What age did you start riding the subways?
Pretty young. Probably 13, maybe.
Alone or like with your parents?
Maybe with like friends.
Yeah.
And then alone, probably like 15 or something like that.
Is that one of those things where like New Yorker parents are just like used to like they just know that their kids are going to be riding the subway? Like my mom was nervous for me when I was like in my 20s doing that.
Maybe it's like we raised the kid here. That's part of the deal type thing.
Right.
Also, they take the subway, so I was about to say they know it's safe. Yeah. Well, it's not, but at least they experience it. So like it's not foreign to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they know that they have a kid that like will keep their head on a swivel. Like,
sure.
Checking for.
Also, like I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So
there is no it not happening. Why'd you go to school in the Bronx?
It was a school I say the Bronx. It was in Riverdale. It's like in the bougie area of the Bronx. And it was just like a good school.
Right.
And the nursery school was in Manhattan, close to where I lived. And then once you hit first grade or something like that, it's in Riverdale. So you just take a school bus.
Oh,
it was
okay,
like 30
got
minutes.
it. Yeah, so it was
traffic.
like even the kids like in your neighborhood went to the Riverdale school.
It was a very Upper East Side-y type school, a little gossip girly type thing.
Yeah, so I like you and your wife actually have like I haven't started it, but you guys are inspiring me to watch Gossip Girl.
Oh wow! Well,
Yeah.
then we have a positive influence.
Yeah, totally. And it was so funny. I remember I was over at your apartment and we were talking about NYC prep, and you were like, "That was like."
Well, we knew some of those.
You knew some of those
people.
people.
Not close, but like.
Yeah.
And then what I will say about Gossip Girl, and I guess it's true for most teen dramas, they start off really strong.
Yes.
And then they run out of plot lines.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Right. Makes sense.
I felt similarly about the OC, which was like a big. Show.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding? OC. Right before you got here, I was watching the new show that he's in. Nobody Wants This.
On
Netflix.
What's his name? Brody.
Yeah, Brody.
Yeah. My wife just watched all of that.
Yeah.
And said it was really fun.
It's so good.
Okay, cool.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I was like, yeah, I'll check out one episode, and now I'm like, I only have like a few episodes left. It's so good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably check it out. It was one of those shows where Rachel watched, what is it, like 10 episodes?
Yeah.
I think she watched it in like a day and a half.
Totally.
Like, one weekend. Yeah.
30-minute episodes, so it's like perfect to digest. And you're an only child.
I am an only child. Yes.
Yes. One of those kids where like your siblings are your neighborhood friends.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to work on a bit for this where it's like people always like doing the thing of like your siblings were your cousins.
Right.
Like try to like figure out who replaced siblings in your life. And then it gets to be like sound almost like the song from Pocahontas where it's like the wind was your brother. Like
Totally.
Yeah.
I do feel like only children always have to defend their like sibling honor in a way because like only children get such a bad rap.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, you're selfish. You don't know how to share. You don't know what it's like having a sibling. And it's like, well, I saw my friend, every night after school or whatever.
It's true. And then always it's the thing of like the quote unquote compliment is, well, you don't seem like an only child. And it's like,
totally.
Well, it gets kind of backhanded.
I know. I kind of want to like take away every poor thing I ever said about an only child because the more I look at my life and if I'm having kids or not, I'm like, wow, one sounds nice.
Yeah.
Having more than one sounds like a lot.
It's weird to me how rare it is.
Yeah,
because
right?
when I do a bit about being an only child, I usually, I don't know, it's just easy to be like any other only children here. And like maybe one person claps.
Right.
But it was rare growing up. There was one other kid, Sam, who was an only child. And then I remember that was it.
Right. That was it. Just you two.
So then you kind of find people that, you never have that exact sibling relationship, but like one of my best friends has a sister but doesn't have a brother.
Right.
And I think that there might actually be something to that where it's like trying to find people where you could be the, closest
totally
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I never had any sisters, and so like when I see my two friends that are sisters like fight, and it's like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They're like, we're sisters. You don't understand. Like, this is how we communicate.
This is just
and
it.
It's like, okay, like, I don't know what that's like. That's crazy to me. But yeah, so something that I talk with people on this podcast about is like comparing themselves to siblings. Like, I noticed that a lot. Like, I always compared myself to my older brother. Like, he was always taller and just like more smart, everything. So you didn't have a sibling to compare yourself to.
The closest thing to siblings in my life were my best friends and my cousins. I have 10 first cousins and I'm very close with them.
Wow, 10 first cousins. That's a lot.
So, but maybe it's because they weren't siblings. I never really felt a cousin rivalry or any of that stuff. It was also the age gap was like pretty significant. I mean, my closest cousin in age, that grew up in the city at least, is about 3-4 years older than me. It was never, there was never like tension in that kind of way.
Yeah. Are you the youngest cousin?
No, I have one cousin who just had a baby that was younger than me. Oh. So the fact that the younger one had a baby before me, that, like...
Right. There is a little bit of that.
Yes.
A little bit. Okay.
But I was on the young side. I'm like of those 10, I'm 10 of 11, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So growing up in Manhattan, did your mom cook at all?
That's a good question. So my dad's actually like a pretty talented cook. He's
man of many talents.
He's a fantastic chef. My mom, I hope she doesn't listen to this, was not. She made like pasta, like some basic dishes. But yeah, my dad was the much better cook.
Okay. So like, because I feel like anytime I used to work for this lady that lived on the Upper West Side, like for a bajillion years, and she would like store her jeans in the stove. Like, she's like, if I'm gonna go get food, I'm gonna get something quick from the bodega, or I'm gonna go to like the spot that everybody knows me at, like at the local restaurant. So like a lot of eating out, because it's like in Manhattan, even a big apartment in New York is a small apartment to a certain degree.
Of course, the kitchen was tiny.
Yeah, so it's like, even like, I love cooking, but like you saw how small my kitchen is. It's so hard to cook in there.
No, there are a few restaurants. There was Delizia, which the pizza place on 92nd Street. There is the Chinese food place that we would go to, kind of changed over time, but like a few years this was the staple. But whatever, there's like 3 or 4 restaurants that I think I am built on, like my body is mostly that.
Right, got it.
So yes, my dad would cook every once in a while, but he was also busy working, so like a lot of takeout. No doubt about it.
Yeah, totally. And your parents worked. You both had. You had working parents, so
for sure. And my dad's a surgeon, and he's like, he's not retired, but he's definitely like slowed down like a little bit. But growing up, it was one of those where the pager would go off in the middle of the night type jobs.
Oh yeah. So growing up, did you do sports or anything?
Yeah, not particularly athletic. I played like JV tennis, and I'm like somewhat coordinated. I am in terms of just talent, I'm very slow. So that's the main impediment. Or actually, second impediment. The main impediment to me being good at any sport that involved anything resembling contact is that I was afraid of the ball, like pure fear. And it actually, like in like really little league, say soccer, people would think that I was a quote selfless like I was the only kid that passed because everyone else.
You're just like, I
but
don't
it was
want
just
this.
Pure terror. Yeah.
Was it just anxiety?
And getting hurt.
And getting hurt.
Yeah. I mean, everyone. I mean, I was the kid at the playground where every kid has a death wish. I mean, they're going down the slide head first, all this stuff. I was the kid who could like barely, I was looking at every step. I was very cautious.
Why do you think you were such a cautious kid?
I always wonder with like anxiety stuff, how much is nature, how much is nurture? Mm-hmm. I think in my case, a lot of it is just nature. I mean, like, I hear stories from my parents where it's like I'm a year old and, terrified of something. So
so it's like you're not being influenced to be that way. Your just natural inclination is just to be like
I think
afraid of danger.
I think so. There are a few things. I mean, there are definitely things like stand-up where it's for a lot of people that would be very anxiety producing. For some reason, it's not as much for me.
Yeah.
Not that I don't have stage fright sometimes, but then there are a million other things where I can blow people out of the water in terms of my anxiety levels.
Right. So yeah, that's like such a funny thing for a kid growing up on the Upper East Side to just be like filled with anxiety. It's like, what are you so anxious about?
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, you find things. Trust me, you find things.
And you skew to be a bit of a hypochondriac.
Yeah. You know what's weird about that is maybe it's just like when you have an anxious personality, it sort of like it's not always over the same thing. You always have the anxiety, but like when I was younger, my big thing was separation issues. And maybe, of course, being an only child could have something to do with that, separating from my parents. I went to like a summer program when I was 16 and lasted a day.
Really?
So this is going on. College was like my parents got insurance on college because it was like, oh, he's probably not gonna.
Oh my gosh! And I feel like because you grew up Jewish or you are Jewish,
right.
And so like I feel like going to camp is like a staple.
I never went to sleepaway camp, and summers were very depressing for me because all my friends were away.
And you couldn't overcome it. You didn't want to.
No, I really couldn't. I really couldn't.
Really.
And that was kind of my main thing growing up, and I wasn't really a hypochondriac, and then I guess once I got over the separation stuff. Keep in mind, I live now 20 blocks away from my parents. So when I say...
yeah, really got over it.
Yeah. So I say that with an asterisk. But then like health... So like every once in a while, I definitely get the thing of thinking I'm dying and all that stuff.
Just, casual thinking I'm dying. Yeah. No big deal. How are you going out on the road? Like, you'll be just like in a seedy motel in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When like my aunts, when I describe to them going on the road and going to the middle of nowhere and stuff, for people who knew me well as a kid, they're like, what? That's totally seems like a 180.
Who replaced you with this body double?
But I think that's what it is. It's like, oh no, I'm the same guy. It's just that my anxieties like went to other stuff.
Totally. It's so I totally relate to that. I had my two fears, like giant fears, were flying and driving. Okay. I was terrified. Now I can do both with ease.
Driving, being the driver,
being the
or
driver,
the passenger?
Being the driver. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to like always want to be a passenger, and like now when it comes to driving, it's like I'm actually thinking like, oh, I could do a better job at this, which is like crazy. I would never be like that.
But I think that like because I guess with plane anxiety, which I definitely have. Part of it is the lack of control.
Yeah.
Not only lack of control, but it's also like, I don't even get how this machine works.
Right.
Like, and it makes no sense, like flying,
Yeah. And I think up until recently, we all had this feeling of just like, well, I don't know how this thing works, but there are people that are trained to make sure that it works. And then earlier this year, like doors are flying off and like things are happening. And it's just like, oh, okay, maybe people don't know what they're doing. And it kind of instills a newer fear.
Did I tell you what happened to me on a flight I was on recently?
No.
Takeoff, and pretty much immediately after takeoff. So we're already high in the air, but like right after takeoff, strong smell of smoke. Like really like everyone looking around.
Yeah.
And maybe it would have been fine if the flight attendants were like cool, but they're sprinting up and down the aisles, I guess searching for the source. And when I saw them freaking out, I'm like, oh my God.
Immediately I'm taking a Xanax.
Oh.
Immediately.
Oh, or just killing myself. I mean,
I'm taking enough Xanax to overdose because I'm going to die anyway.
That's right. Go out with a bang. But what is weird is that I'm on the plane with my wife who she didn't take a Xanax. She didn't have a drink. She is like so cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
And it's like to the point she's like, you're anxious, so we can't both be anxious. Like so logical.
Love.
In a moment where
Yeah.
logic would normally go out the window, that obviously I'm very lucky and it's good to have that yin yang.
Yeah.
But there's an also, we anxious people look at non-anxious people as psychotic.
Psychos.
It makes
Yeah.
you're like, well, she's so calm, like we're about to die. I don't.
This thing is going down.
Snap
and she's
out of
having
it.
tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was going on with the plane?
So then the pilot gets on and he's like, and he's very calm.
Yeah.
And
you
he
hear it as a
says-
man's voice, and you're like, "We're fine."
Yes. Yeah. Of course. No, if it was a woman being calm, I would be like, well, this is even if she were freaking out, I'd be like, well, whatever she's saying, the opposite is probably true.
We're fine. Her tampon's just exploded. That's where the smoke is coming from. It's fine.
Imagine a pilot getting on calmly and saying that. Like, oh, hey, everybody. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Thank you for flying Delta.
Yeah.
No, so the guy is like, yeah, one of the air conditioners broke. This happens all the time. We have a backup AC. I don't know. And I'm still nervous the rest of the flight because
of course you're like,
it sounds BS.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. I think the second thing worse than the plane going down would be not having AC on a plane.
Oh,
nothing
terrible.
worse than a hot plane.
Yeah, 10 hours.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, a long flight.
Yeah.
Was that when you were going to Tokyo or Japan?
No, we went.
Oh yeah.
to,
I remember
Italy and Tunisia.
Yes. Oh gosh.
So that was on the way back from Italy.
Good for your wife for staying so calm, because I do agree that in any relationship you need to have an anxious one and a normal one, and normally I'm the one that's anxious and Joe is the normal one, and it's so funny when it switches because Joe's not like us. He's like I can look back when I was younger and realize like, oh, that was a panic attack that I was having, as opposed to being, someone in their 20s that is like for the first time they're having a panic attack and they don't realize like what this is. They think they're dying.
Absolutely.
And so Joe was like that. And so we were somewhere, and when like you're just away from your home for like too many days, and like that in and of itself can be anxiety inducing.
Yes.
Because you're just like, I
Very
want to get back,
Yes.
And it's like, relax. It's been 5 days. That was happening to him when we were away for a little bit. We were sitting and I could just tell he's like shifting weird. He's like not real comfortable. And I was like, what's the matter? He goes, nothing's the matter. And I was like, you sure? Then a few minutes later, he's still doing that. And I was like, are you all right? And he's like, I don't know. I can't really breathe. And I feel weird. And I was like, you're having anxiety.
Yeah.
And he's like, am I? I was like, yes, you are. Like, and it's like, I'm not somebody that needs to have Xanax on me 100%, like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I have it on me. So it's like, that in and of itself takes it away.
100%.
Because it's
Yeah.
I have it and I didn't have any on me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I wish I could just give you half a Xanax and this just like takes it all away, because like, we should just be enjoying our dinner.
Yeah.
And you're having this anxiety, but because you're not used to it, you don't even know what it is. It just completely throws everything. It throws everything off. But I'm a big fan of beta blockers, because you're probably familiar.
I have a Klonopin, and I have a very similar relationship to it as it sounds like you do with Xanax, where it's like, if I have it just in my bag,
Totally.
that usually does the trick.
Yeah.
And it makes you a little... if you're taking Klonopin, it makes you like a little. It's kind of similar to alcohol, like makes you a little loopy.
Yeah.
And so I don't generally like taking it, but just the fact that it's near is usually okay. And a little bit of a flip, just a brief story of the story you just told about Joe, which is that I have a friend he's a college friend, and I was feeling, I guess guess I was feeling anxious, a little depressed. I think it had something to do with a girl. I can't remember exactly. But I was like, okay, I'm going to confide in this guy.
Yeah.
And I should probably preface this by saying that he might actually be a sociopath. So
Great.
Not dangerous, but like I don't know if he feels anything.
Right.
But I said to him like, I'm a little like depressed, anxious about this, and this. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm not feeling well. He's like, does it hurt? And I was like, well, sure. Yeah. It's like, and he's like, where? And I'm like, everywhere. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. And he's like, point to it. And it was one of these strange, like you feel like you're talking a different language.
Right.
Type things. But again, he might be actually, Ted
he might
Bundy.
be emotionally disturbed.
But it is a weird, people experience the world very differently.
Totally. And I also think that for men specifically, a superpower that anxiety gives you is empathy. Like I noticed that my guy friends that skew more anxious are like, you guys are really empathetic people. Whereas like a guy that doesn't understand that, like, can't see another perspective of how someone might feel about something,
Yes.
So.
And if you're familiar with the feeling, you know what you would want other people to act like when you're going through it.
Yeah.
So how to be kind of, and it's also like anxiety is, I've like, I think helped people out with anxiety, which is the ultimate phony, who the hell am I to help someone out? But like, I do know like what it's like to be a calming presence for someone when they're going through shit.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm not also going through shit, I can try to be that for someone.
That's awesome. And I understand that feeling well. It's just so funny that you can be that person. And then once you're in it, when you need someone to be that calming force, all of that flies out the window of like how you know how to be there for somebody.
It's wild. I mean, I know what an anxiety attack is. I'm very, very familiar. I've had, countless amounts of them. The kinds where you feel like you're dying, you've experienced it over and over again, and yet you still feel like you're dying. And it's like people around you are like, no, like your throat is not tightening up. It's just in your head, and you're like, no, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is,
Do you have any, this is the big one. Do you have memories of like the first time you felt anxiety?
Oh, well, again, I think that probably it goes before I think that there is like even before I could talk type
like
aspect.
before you're even conscious.
In terms of, I think so my grandmother, my dad's mom passed away when I was 4, and I don't remember it very well, of course, but apparently after that happened, and I think it's true for a lot of kids who just experience death for the first time and have no idea how to understand it. Not that I understand death now, but like, you know what I mean? I think I had like a really rough time going through that, and I think that was a period where I was like, maybe that was more depression than anxiety. So hard to know with like a little kid.
Depressed 4-year-old.
But they took me to a therapist, and it was one of those things like depression always, like you don't really know the source. Sometimes the source is a million things.
Right.
And I think they did the thing, which I assume is pretty common for child psychology, of having the kid draw a picture. So I drew, I think, like a bowl of soup, which is what she would cook for me. So I guess child psychology is a little more obvious. It's like, oh, no, this is what I'm sad about.
Yeah, totally. I see. Okay. Yeah, so it's just like anxiety, it has just been this like lifelong thing that you've always dealt with.
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a bad case. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious as far as like growing up, when it came to food, like your parents are both healthcare professionals, so like I'm sure they were always conscious about like having healthy food in the house, or no?
They really didn't care much. My dad like loves food and alcohol.
Okay. He likes to party.
He likes to party.
I respect it.
But he also is like, I also really respect my dad's the kind of guy with food where it's like it doesn't matter if it's Popeyes or the most expensive French restaurant, whatever. Like he loves it all, and he gets true enjoyment from food and alcohol. Like he's not it's not just like his hand is moving.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
It's not just dopamine. It's like pleasure.
he's really enjoying it. Yeah. And I mean, my house didn't have too much snack foods, but it wasn't because my parents were like, don't buy Snickers type thing. And my relationship with food, other than a couple like little chubby phases or whatever, I had a chubby phase where I just was obsessed with ginger ale. I mean, just like going to the nurse's office type thing. So I gained a little weight from that. It has a lot of calories.
I think Scott Disick just did that recently. He was in the news that he gained a bunch of weight because he thought ginger ale was like a health food soda.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because they always give it to you at the nurse's office to calm your stomach. But I went through a phase where I was downing. I mean, I was Mr. Canada Dry. I mean, it was just insane.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Schweppes or Canada Dry?
I think whatever I could get my hands
on,
honestly,
you're just really into it.
I think I might prefer Canada Dry a little more.
It's sweeter.
Right?
Yeah, it is sweeter.
But with weight stuff, I kind of had, I guess, a thing. So after college, I moved to Chicago to try to do comedy writing and like more sketch and improv stuff. And like a lot of people in their early 20s, I felt very lost. I chose this thing, but like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I've always been kind of one of those people where if I don't exactly know what I'm doing, I just decide to like do something.
Right.
So like in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was like, okay, let me try to get good grades. Like, no matter what, getting good grades is positive.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you become a comedian where no one gives a fuck. But so that's what ended up happening. But then I was like, after college, I was like, oh, let me try to get in good shape. Like work out, eat healthy.
Yeah.
And I took it to like what ended up being a bad extreme.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
I screwed up my hormones and
really?
Stuff. Yeah.
So you're in your 20s?
Yes.
In your 20s, and you just decide like, okay, I'm going to work out. So what did like that entail? Like, what did a day of working out look like?
It grew. So it started off like normal and healthy. Like run a little bit every day or try some weights.
Yeah.
Probably I know I screwed up with, if you're going to do like weight stuff, to really figure out how to do it correctly because you will hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And that came to bite me in the ass later. But basically, it built up to eventually working out like an hour a day or maybe a little bit more. And I think part of it was that I probably wasn't doing correct form. Whatever it was, I started eating like insanely healthy, got into the whole reading magazines, and have like a pretty obsessive personality. So it was like, just got into it.
Yeah.
And if you work out a lot, you got to eat a lot.
Right.
And I was like kind of dieting as I was working out a lot, which is going to fuck up your body.
Yeah.
So that was, I one time, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had like bad heart palpitations, and it wasn't anxiety. I felt, and I for whatever reason, my instinct was to like drink some orange juice or something, and it made me feel better. So
your body was craving something.
Blood sugar was getting like, I was having weird reactions. And then my mom is an endocrinologist with hormone doctor. So she's like, check your hormones. I did. And like everything was out of whack.
Really?
Yeah.
So was that enough to break you of the cycle you were in?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a wake up call type thing, but it takes time. I mean, like there was definitely, so I was getting crazy with it.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I know it's sort of the reverse of the common problem of having a bad relationship with food and exercise.
Right.
But you could go too far the other way too. I mean, especially if you're not doing it right. If you're gonna work out a lot and eat, do it correctly.
Yeah.
I was not.
Make sure that's the working out a lot and then not eating enough is just as bad as eating too much and not working out enough.
Oh,
it's the inverse, but it's just as detrimental.
Your body starts to go into survival mode.
Yeah.
And like the first thing that happens is like for men and women, like anything, it's like so interesting how nature works. It shuts down like reproductive stuff.
Right.
Like women would stop, if you're too skinny, you stop getting your period.
Yeah.
And it's like one of these things, men, it's like a similar thing. Your testosterone tanks.
Right.
Because I guess it's like a Darwinian thing where it's like, you like the first thing you got to do is survive. So if your body senses that you're not doing that well, then they're not going to let you procreate.
Yeah, you become like the runt of the litter, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what's interesting about you saying that you like woke up with heart palpitations and then like kind of immediately instinctually knew what to do? That's the opposite of like a true emergency and anxiety. Because in anxiety, you don't know what to do. But when it's like a true like, okay, I have to like fix this, it's like you know what to do. You're able to do it.
100%. Yeah, that's so interesting. I don't remember why I knew to do that. I mean, I might, because I wasn't hungry, I guess. I was like...
Well, cravings of any kind are your body wanting the thing that it feels deficient in.
Yeah.
So the fact that you like just kind of instinctually knew to go get the thing that has the vitamins that you're needing was just your body like it. That is evolution, which is crazy.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So that was you. So you know, had that happen, and then were you able to like taper down from working out excessively, or was it
over time?
Over time.
Yeah. I still do work out a little bit pretty much every day. I'm not like pretty moderate, whatever. It's much more for mental purposes rather than anything else. I have like, as we kind of touched on, pretty bad like depression tendencies, and a little that sort of routine has really helped me.
Yeah, especially because in your line of work where you're a comedian first, where like you don't have like because you don't have a 9-to-5, right?
I tutor.
You tutor.
So it's, but exactly, there's no structure.
So there's no structure. So like you could like have maybe a day where you're not tutoring and you're feeling depressed.
Yeah.
That is just a recipe for rotting in bed all day, which is the exact opposite of what needs to happen.
Totally. And I like structure.
Yeah.
Which might make me kind of different from most comedians. Like I liked school.
Yeah.
I was tired, but like I liked having like a schedule.
Yeah.
And choosing what we chose to do is like the total opposite of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What else was I going to ask you? Okay, so when you got into working out really hard, when you just decide, okay, my thing that I'll focus on is being really fit. Was that the first time that you like deployed a specific diet? Or did you
other
try
than the
dieting?
pure? Well, I had the ginger ale diet.
Oh, the ginger ale phase.
And then that morphed eventually into a Diet Coke. As you know, I drink excessive amounts of Diet Coke. In college, I would get was it a 2-liter? What's the biggest one?
2-liter, yeah.
And I would just, if I were studying that day, I would like go to the library with a 2-liter Diet Coke, and it would be gone by the time like the day is over at maximum.
Yeah.
It's just delicious.
It's so good.
I don't know what else to say.
Chemically addicted. What do you want?
It's oh my God. The chemicals are the best part.
Literally.
People are like when they're giving you a more pure whatever Diet Coke, it's like, well, I need more aspartame.
Yeah, aspartame is what I'm here for.
Yeah, I need a hit.
Yeah.
So, but like, you know, in terms of really being conscious of exactly what I eat, it was this evolving thing of like, and again, like reading magazines, and you're like, you got to have this many carbs and this much protein, and also like nutrition. I guess I feel like people know, you know, generally what's healthy, what's not healthy, but nutrition seems like it seems like a very soft science.
Yeah.
Where one food is like the flavor of the month, and then they're like, no, actually you shouldn't have carbs, and they're like, no, actually, whatever, complex carbohydrates.
Right.
Like they feel like they're fucking with you.
Yeah, it's all marketing. It's all whatever it is that can sell the next thing. Like when we were growing up, it was like, don't have no fat, no butter.
Yep.
That everything was, I can't believe it's not butter. But like, you know, like people were afraid of red meat because of the fat that's in red meat. And now one of the most popular diets is the keto diet, where it's all red meat and it's all fat and it's all butter.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you don't know where to, if you don't know where to land on like what you should do. And the fact of the matter is that everybody's body is different and like reacts differently to, different makeup of diets. So for there to be one like quick fix is just, there isn't.
Of course. Yeah. They're totally taking advantage of the fact that it's not uniform.
Right.
And, I know of diets that work great for some people and that work terribly for other people.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh man. So, okay. You went every night at the end of your night, you like to have a sweet treat. Nowadays,
yes. So after going through the kind of whatever phase, I was like, okay. So every night before I go to bed, a few times I haven't recently, and that's how I know something's off. But I have some sort of dessert, preferably ice cream. That's usually my dessert, or frozen yogurt, or whatever.
Yeah.
But anything, and I think that it's like a very basic reward type system.
Yeah.
Where it's like you've made it through. I also am like very conscious of not having the sweet treat during the day.
Right. Because you want it to be at night.
Yeah. If you're hanging out with me like during the afternoon and it's like, oh, let's go get an ice cream, I won't do it.
Yeah.
In a strange way.
That's my night treat.
That's right. That's what I will tell you. I will say, no. That is for when it's dark. But I do have like some sort of ice cream or some sort of thing before I go to bed. I think it really is that. It's like, oh, good for you. You made it through a day.
I like a reward system. I'm not against a reward system. Do you think when you were growing up, was it like, Ben, if you don't do this, then you don't get ice cream later, or do this and you'll get ice cream? Do you think that may have happened?
I'm sure it did. I feel like that's like such a common parenting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with like my family and culture, and I'm sure a lot of cultures are very similar to this, it was your classic, they're feeding you until you vomit, and then they're telling you, why are you not skinny?
Right.
That is my like Eastern European Jewish culture. I'm sure it's very similar in other cultures that are very food oriented, which is like most cultures.
Right.
But it was one of those things, they will stuff you and then they will
berate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you grew up with.
That was the vibe.
The sentiment.
It was easier for guys, as it always is.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it would be less pressure.
Right.
But definitely for the girls in my family, it was that they would be like, "Why aren't you eating? Eat, please, eat." And then I made this. They would guilt you into eating. Like someone worked really hard to make the food, and then it's like, well, you got
you had too much.
Yeah,
you had too much. Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like you said that if you're not having like that sweet treat at the end of the night, then something is a little bit off. Is it just because like your scatterbrained and forget, or like what's happening that it's not happening?
I mean, it's one of those things where like it's such a normal part of my routine where if I have dinner and then I get into bed at whatever time and Rachel's like, wait, did you have like ice cream or something? And I'm like, no, it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
That probably means someone has died, or something extraordinary.
Something's amiss. Right. Okay, so being that you're somebody that skews more to being more anxious, it's so interesting that as anxious people we go into a line of work like comedy, because like it's all about being perceived. Like we're constantly being perceived when it comes to just getting on stage and putting things out onto the internet for people to comment on and have an opinion on. How have you been doing with your anxiety now that you've recently released a special on the internet?
It's not pleasant.
Yeah, I'm living in hell.
No sweet treats.
There's no sweet treats in hell.
Yes, that's right. All kale. I released this thing. And the thing is that like I had a lot of trouble with the sort of limbo period between filming the thing and releasing it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have, I mean, I helped with the editing, of course, in terms of like watching it and being like, telling the editor, you know, oh, fix this, don't fix it, whatever.
Right.
But I'm not computer set. Like, I didn't edit it myself. So it was kind of a 5-month period of like, I don't know, we were talking about with the airplane. Like, it wasn't under my control to a certain extent. And I don't know how the thing is going to do.
Right.
So I'm nervous. And then it comes out, and the issue with the special type thing is like, it's not like it comes out and it's not like you got a grade back from a test.
Right.
It's like it comes out and it's like, oh, well, I won't know for forever if this thing was successful or not.
Right.
You know, I know the views and I know the likes and all that stuff, but it's like kind of open-ended what it ends up doing. And that's just a feeling I have to get used to, and I already feel like I am.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, how do you get through that? Like, how do you manage with like this? Now it's truly out of your control. It's out there for people to consume.
Yes, yeah. All I can do is like release clips on a certain schedule and that, but
yeah,
it's not only out of my control, but it's also like it's no person control. It's a algorithm.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like sci-fi, where it's like I'm at the whim of this this AI thing, and whether YouTube decides to generate it or not, it's like, well, that's really out of my control.
Right. Well, everybody listen to this. Make sure you check out Ben's special.
Don't even watch. Just hit like, please. I won't know the difference. No, I hope you enjoy it. Please watch.
It doesn't matter to me whether or not you like it. Just make sure you hit like.
I'm not in this for the audience to enjoy things or escape from their problems.
Oh my God. The most successful comedians maybe aren't that putting stuff out for people to enjoy things. So maybe that's a good tip.
I think they're putting stuff out that they think people enjoy.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Okay, let's see. What else? Are you the most anxious of your friend group? Or are you all just a bunch of little, like you're from home friend group?
A bunch of nebbishy Jews. You know, I have certain friends. I definitely have certain friends that are more reminiscent of Rachel, that are like, they don't seem to have much kind of angst or anxiety. I mean, I've got some eccentric friends who could give me a run for my money, I think.
Totally.
Maybe in different areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I hate to, if we got Jewish people listening, I hate to do the stereotype, but like, we are an anxious people for the most part. That is one of those things where like, when I saw my wife act like that on the plane, I was like, we got to do like a 23andMe. I mean, this is crazy. This is not, you're betraying our culture here.
And she grew up in Manhattan too.
She grew up right near me.
Yeah. So you guys, like, it's like nature versus nurture. You're like, this is just my nature. This is just who I am, how I am.
And, you know, I'm sure you could get into historical reasons and all that kind of stuff, whatever.
It runs deep.
Yeah. But, and my parents, you know, they're anxious people in their own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the weird thing about anxiety. It comes in a lot of different forms. And
right. Do you ever get anxiety centered around food where like you eat something and you're like, wait, I think this has something that I'm allergic to in it, and now my throat's closing up?
How did you know? That was kind of creepy. I didn't tell you that story.
No.
Really? I've convinced I have a fictional allergy to shellfish.
No.
I swear.
Oh my
God. My mom is allergic to shellfish. I have eaten shellfish my whole life.
Right.
I'm not kosher or anything, you know. And one day I had some calamari or something, and I felt like maybe a little tickle in my throat. And whether, you know, who knows? Maybe some of it was real, some of it wasn't.
Yeah.
Even if there was a nugget of reality, it was blown out of proportion. In Japan, when I was on my honeymoon with my wife, we went to a island. I think it's called Miyajima. That's famous for their oysters. And I still, Rachel, if you're listening, I apologize again. But I had some oysters, got convinced that I was having a severe allergic reaction, and then it was literally this like beautiful island, like it's our honeymoon. We're supposed to be having a very good time, and we did. But this day, it's just me for 24 hours, just going like,
oh no,
and she's there, and that's the thing about like the person next to you who knows you're going through something irrational.
Yep.
And I messed up that day.
So you have a fictional shellfish seafood allergy.
I think that if we went out now and got like shrimp, I would probably be hesitant.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. I mean, I'm aware that it's
right. But again, there's no stopping it. Once you're feeling it, it just is what it is.
I don't know. And then it's also one of those things where it's like, oh no, I'm gonna like I was convinced like 10 hours after I had the oysters, I was like, I'm asphyxiated. Like this is the end. And she's like, no, if that would happen immediately.
You would know you were asphyxiating.
It would be within minutes. Yeah. Or seconds. But I was like, no, like you don't. And that's the thing. Anxious people, we're quite confident.
Yeah.
We're like, we're kind of dismissing the more rational person and just being like, no, you don't get it. I'm the kind of guy
I know
who has
best.
a delayed reaction to oysters that I've never had before. And I've been eating this kind of food forever. But
right now.
Yeah, you don't understand science and
right.
Yeah.
And it all just stems from the fact that your mom has this allergy.
My mom has this allergy, and it's not a deadly allergy. She just like has like stomach pain.
She'll just get she'll get like a migraine.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, full on asphyxiation. Like I am done for if I have any of this. Oh wow. Okay. So is it just seafood that you have this with?
Yes. For allergies, yes. But that's so interesting that you brought it up. It's like spooky to me. Is this more common than I?
No, I mean, I think we were talking about anxiety, and like I understand food anxiety very well. Well, personally, anecdotally, not in any real like.
Have you ever done this thing with the allergy or?
No, not quite to what you're explaining, but I like. If anything that I eat touches pineapple, I like am convinced that I'm gonna hurt myself. Yeah,
totally understand.
Yeah, and it's like when I was younger and I would eat pineapple, I like noticed my throat scratching a little bit, but like I didn't really think about it until like one time when I was a little bit older. It like I got like a little bit splotchy and like my lips got really big, and it was like and I remember my mom saying like, oh, don't eat pineapple, like if that's happening around your airway, like that worries me, because she's a nurse, so like again, medical professional, like she's like, that worries me, like I don't want you to asphyxiate kind of thing. So then from then on I just like never touched it until like if I take a sip of something and I like know the taste of pineapple is in there, like I have to like, push it away, and I'm like, I'm doing that as well. So
that sounds like it's a little more based in reality, but I totally understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. I will literally be fine if I have a little bit, but like I still like get so
it's
nervous.
Associated.
Yeah.
So I don't have an allergy thing for anything other than shellfish. A somewhat similar story, and this is I have ruined many trips with my wife. So we went for our 1-year anniversary. We went to a town called Beacon, which is like
Joe and I are planning to go to Beacon.
So very, very nice place.
Yeah.
It was a somewhat unsuccessful trip, not because Beacon isn't very nice.
Yeah.
I am lying down in bed and I start to feel my arm twitch a little bit, and it's not stopping. And it's weird. It's a weird, like, fluttery feeling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't stopping for a few hours, and I was convinced that I had some sort of severe, muscular brain disease.
Right.
Went to a neurologist over this thing. And again, don't marry someone like me. Like, my wife already I made the accident, but
she can't take it back.
You ruin these trips. It's not good because we're like at these like nice museums or like at an antique store or whatever, and she's like, oh, look at this, I don't know, whatever fucking thing they sell there,
figurine
or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm just there convinced that I have MS or ALS or something. I don't even know what these diseases mean, but I'm convinced that's what I have.
Right.
And then the other thing is like with the internet, they'll freak the shit out of you.
Yeah, can't Google.
So that doesn't help.
Yeah. Do you notice that when you're something like your wedding day or your special taping day, things that like high risk, high anxiety kind of things, like are you noticing your health anxiety kind of spiraling a little bit more, thinking you have ALS or something when you're gearing up for something important?
That's a really good question, and I wish that the answer is probably yes, and I wish that I kept a journal or something to actually keep track of that stuff, because I'm not very good at that. I want to say probably yes.
Right, because it's just like really what I found anxiety is, and like what we're talking about is just like our stress manifesting in something tangible.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So whether it's like who knows why your muscles were fluttering or like why you had that little twitch when you were on like a weekend getaway with your wife, but it happened.
Yeah. Unsure about the relationship. Okay. No, I'm just
kidding. So like when you go to the neurologist for this, are they like, Ben, why are you here? Or are they hearing you out for real?
They're like telling me to do 1 million tests so that they can get
yeah.
But I do think that I'm making the joke about it has nothing to do with my wife, but I think it does go back to what we were saying before. I'm in a new place. I'm out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not a coincidence.
Yeah, I used to sleepwalk when I was sleeping somewhere unfamiliar.
Interesting.
Yeah. If I wasn't in my own bed, I remember it happened to me a lot in college. But like the first time I was like in a dorm room, I would sleepwalk a little bit.
So fascinating.
Yeah, because you're just like it is an anxiety, and like our bodies are so just like it's uncomfortable being somewhere that you're not used to. So sometimes you'll do something that is like it's really weird. Your body reacting in a way where like it goes back to the control thing. It's like I'm not controlling what's happening. I'm not controlling the fact that I'm sleepwalking or the fact that like my I'm feeling like heart palpitations even.
Yeah.
So. And
I think it does usually stem from something. Like I think I did do, like an arm exercise the day before.
Right.
Probably there was a tiny stimulus that like did make sense.
Right.
But then it's just the snowball of anxiety.
You don't have the logic to like connect it back to that in the moment.
But you're also right. It's almost like, it's a weird word to use, but like a scapegoat almost. It's like, it's like putting it all into one, I guess I'm not exactly, but it's like, putting it all into a concrete thing, which makes sense. I mean, like the mind-body relationship, it's like so creepy.
Have you ever read books like The Body Keeps the Score or anything?
No.
I feel like you would really connect with something like that.
Okay.
Because your brain manifests into these physical ailments, and the ailments are real, but like, I don't know, it feels like you maybe would get some use out of looking into how your brain can manifest pains and reactions like that. So maybe it'd help you not spiral a little bit.
Send me the link.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, this was such a fun conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's such
so
a
much.
nice time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we got to talk about anxiety and it's so interesting. Whether, boy, girl, whoever, almost everybody that sits on this couch has some weird relationship where at one point they had like an unhealthy relationship to exercising or food or something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. So, and I didn't know that about you. And now here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's like food. Because you got to eat.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes sense that like at some point you're going to, I don't know.
Mess up.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Mess up how you eat.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So where can people find you?
Oh, please follow me on Instagram at Ben Kirschenbaum. The spelling is hard, but I'm sure it's underneath.
It'll
the
be
thing.
written down.
And please watch the special. I worked really hard on it. I hope you like it.
Yes, you can find Ben's special on YouTube at Mark Norman's page. There will be a link to watch the special in the description of the show notes, along with all the places you can follow Ben. And until next week, we'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Kelly.